So here we have set 6044, the King's Carriage from 1995. And this is an awesome little set, an awesome carriage. And it's striking. It's not really big. It's long, but it's maneuverable and it's striking to look at. And it just kind of shows some royalty. And new for this year, they kind of redid the Lion Knights. Obviously, there's a lion emblem, lion flag, and there's a bigger flag with the big castle. And then on the shields too. I like it. I don't like it as much as the old 80s Lion Knights shields. They just look more classic, and I love those shields. Those are neat. But still, this was fun and kind of a revamp. And as you can see, the first time ever, they introduced that year a king minifigure, which has sort of a familiar, I think it's the Dragon Master head, which is kind of interesting, but still cool. But then they introduced this print and then a crown on his head, which is sort of a golden, kind of a chrome sort of crown. A little bit brassy looking. And yeah, I love it. It kind of rubs off if you and doesn't stay on his head too well. It's not real tight, but if you just take care of it and don't play too crazy with it, it works out really well. It's a good striking look. I love it. I loved it when it came out. It was something that I really looked forward to that year, and sort of my final Lego years as a kid. And definitely wasn't the last of Legos that I collected, but it was, yeah, it was those final years of my looking at the catalog and waiting for things to come out. And this was definitely much anticipated, because this is the first time they ever had a king. And there are lots of sets in Castle that had kings this and kings that, and then we never saw the king until 1995. Lego introduced Castle in 1984, but with actually the King's Castle, but there was no king. And we'll get to that some other time. But in 1995, this was one of 4 sets of the what they would call the Royal Knights. I just still think of them as Lion Knights, sort of an extension. And the Royal Lion Knights. So this set comes with, obviously, the 2 horse carriage. And then it comes with 2 soldiers that just have this sort of regular helmet without the nose guard. And then the lion shields and swords. I prefer these sort of shiny swords that have a bit of a reflective quality to them. It's a little bit confusing because this is actually a secondhand set, and so the swords are different. You know, it may have been a part of a collection, or it may have gotten lost at one point. But also that year in '96, they came out with these swords, which look very similar, obviously, to the normal ones. But they have sort of a matte finish to them. They're not quite shiny, and they have this little bit of a gap, in the center. These were a little bit odd. They just felt more cheap than the old ones from the 80s and the early 90s, which had sort of a shiny finish to them. These gray swords. So we preferred those for sure. And you know, all in all, it still looks okay, but for some reason that's what they came out with that year on some of the sets, and then some of the sets in '96. So they must have changed manufacturing or something, but so that was a bit odd. But otherwise, still a really cool Lego build quality. And then also they came out with this big shiny chrome sword that year that the king would have. The king would wield it, which I thought was awesome. I loved it. This chrome kind of rubs off. Mine's in really good shape here. Usually you'll find them with them. It rubbed off on the blade. The handle's a little bit rubbed off, but that's understandable because of, you know, taking it in and out of his hand. So I kind of just leave it where it is. I don't really, I don't let him use it much. I just kind of leave it for display. Yeah, and it's pretty straightforward. It just has this roof that comes up and down, and then he can sit just kind of room enough for him only, and really not much else. I suppose the queen or the princess or other royalty has to ride in a separate carriage, but that's okay. And then of course you got some treasure here in a little compartment there. But yeah, all in all, I love this set. It's really cool. In my display, I kind of envisioned that the king is coming to visit this Black Knight's kingdom, kind of a small little village, and yeah, he's staying on a vacation trip or something. I don't know. Anyways, so there you have it. 6044 King's Carriage from 1995. Love it. It's a really cool set, really striking. Oh, and I have the instructions as well, which are in really good shape, actually. I love them. They look great. They've got this guy like kneeling down with reverse legs on there. It's kind of funny. But there he's like knighting him, and there's like a glimmer from the sword. But yeah, looks really good. It's a cool carriage. Love the size and the build of that.